All right, welcome to the deep dive. Today we are looking at just a few verses, Luke 10:21 through 24.
Yeah, it's a very short passage.
It is, but it packs such a punch. You get these astonishing theological claims right next to a really personal glimpse of Jesus' own emotions.
And it all seems to be focused on one big idea, how humility is, the key to divine knowledge.
So let's set the scene. Where does this moment fall in Luke's story?
Well, it happens right after the 70 disciples get back from their mission.
The 70, or sometimes it's 72, right?
Exactly, depending on the manuscript. And that mission was really a preview of the gospel going global, touching on the traditional 70 nations of the world.
And the emotional part is, it's really striking. Luke says Jesus rejoiced in the Holy Spirit.
We just don't see him visibly ecstatic that often. The Greek word here, ogaliosado, it means something like a thrilled exultation. It's this moment of pure, observable joy.
Wow. And right out of that joy comes this doctrinal shockwave. I've heard some scholars call it the Johannine thunderbolt.
They do, yeah. And it's an explosive term for a reason.
So why a thunderbolt? What makes that verse so shocking?
It's the absolute claim he makes in verse 22. He says, "No one knows who the Son is except the Father, or who the Father is except the Son."
That sounds like it's straight out of the Gospel of John.
It does, that kind of exclusive, perfect, mutual knowledge. It's classic John. And finding it here in Luke is a staggering blow to any theory that, the early church started with a low view of Jesus.
So this wasn't some idea that evolved later on.
Not at all.
Yeah.
This shows that the very, very high view of Christ's unique relationship with the Father was a bedrock tradition.
Okay, so before we get to that massive claim, Jesus starts with a paradox. He thanks God for hiding the truth.
Right, for hiding it from the wise and understanding, and instead revealing it to little children, or even infants.
And we have to be careful about who the wise were back then.
We do. In that first century context, the wise were the scribes and Pharisees, the educated elite who could actually read and study the Torah.
And the literacy rate was just tiny, wasn't it?
Incredibly low. Probably less than 3% in first century Israel.
3%. So for almost everyone listening to him, they were the infants in this situation.
Exactly. So this isn't Jesus being anti-intellectual.
No, of course not.
He's condemning pride. The kind of intellectual arrogance that makes you self-sufficient, that uses knowledge to exclude people.
So the infant heart isn't about being uneducated, it's about being
dependent. It's about having trust. The knowledge that you can't figure God out on your own. You have to receive him as a gift.
That's a great transition, actually, because if the ancient barrier was pride from knowing too much, maybe our modern one is pride from doing too much.
I think that's a perfect way to put it. Busyness, productivity. It can become a kind of seculosity where our value is all wrapped up in our accomplishments.
And Jesus speaks directly to that, doesn't he? He redirects the disciples' joy.
He does. They come back thrilled about their success, casting out demons, their productivity.
But he tells them the real reason to rejoice is that their names are written in heaven.
It's about their identity, not their activity. It's a gift of grace, not a reward for merit.
So the key takeaway here is pretty clear then.
I think so. At the end of the day, knowing the Father is not a human discovery. It's a divine revelation given only through the Son.
So what's the final thought for you listening to this?
Well, Jesus ends by turning to his disciples, and he tells them how blessed they are. He says many prophets and kings, think of figures like David or Isaiah, they longed to see and hear what the disciples were experiencing.
But they couldn't. They only saw the promise, the shadows of what was to come.
Exactly. But the disciples, and by extension you today, you get to live in the age of reality. The age of the incarnation, fully revealed.
And if those spiritual heroes desired it so much,
it just demands a profound sense of humility from us, and I think an intense gratitude. It reminds us our spiritual sight isn't something we've earned. It's just a profound gift.